Alright class, so the first thing you want to do is you want to finish filling in all 4 of these boxes. So I jotted down some ideas for my logo. So I'm an art teacher. I love to take photos, and paintbrush is a typical art teacher logo. I love coffee. I'm obsessed with flowers. And then my initials are LG or LGG. So I came up with 4 logos and I drew them here in my box. So I have the camera and my initials, flowers and my initials, coffee, and then I turned a paintbrush into an L, and then a paint splatter into my G. So once I'm done that, I will check it, give you the go to choose one of the logos, and you'll get a piece of tracing paper. Now your tracing paper, you want to recreate your logo onto here. So I'm going to choose the camera with my initials inside the lens. So I'm going to take my linoleum block, put it on my tracing paper, trace the outline of your linoleum block, so that way you know how big to make your logo. So I have my rectangle. So I'm going to make my logo fit inside this rectangle pretty big in the center. Since this is my final, I'm trying to be more neat with my lines and more straight and even with my lines. Then I'm going to fill in the areas that I'm going to not have carved and that are going to be inked. So my pencil lines are going to be inked, and anything that is white and not inked, not drawn on, will be white spaces. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to flip it over onto the back, and I am going to scribble over all of the lines that I made of my logo. Once you're done scribbling over all of your lines, you're going to flip your tracing paper back down to the front. Put your linoleum tile underneath. Line it up how you want it. And then you're going to trace back over your lines and put a lot of pressure without ripping the tracing paper. Alright, so now your logo design is on your linoleum tile. You can go back in and make those lines a little bit more noticeable. You don't have to, but you can if it bothers you. When you're done this, it is time to start the carving. So you want to think about positive and negative space. The positive space is any of those black areas that will have ink on it. The negative space is all of these open spaces that do not have your pencil lines. So maybe your background inside here, in between my logos. Might want to make these a little bit darker so I can see my lines better. And then I'm going to use my gouge tool to carefully start carving away. You don't want to put too much pressure because you don't want to go through the bottom of your tile. You just want to carve out the top layer so that way when you apply the ink, it is not getting onto the open spaces, the negative spaces that you don't want to be inked and show in your print. Now if I carved out the entire background, I want to leave a line of the outside of my camera. I don't want to carve away all of it. I want to have that solid line that will be inked when I print it. So I want to think about that while I'm carving away. Do you see how there is a thin line for my camera that will be inked? And then I want to carefully carve around it. Make sure not to carve that completely away. Take your time with this, be careful. Always carve away from you, but be mindful of where your fingers are and not to clip your fingers, because it is sharp and it is pointy metal knife, so you don't want to hurt yourself. And then you continue to carve on the inside.